My name's Alan. I work in the pre-sales department here at Zoho, so I kind of handle the technical requirements as people evaluate and take a look at our different apps and make sure what they're getting is going to meet their business requirements. What I want to focus in today is going to be Salesforce Automation. And so we're going to be walking you through the sales process, showing you some features, how to set them up. And we're going to take a lead from inception to all the way to close. With that being said, we're going to first just review the sales process and ask ourselves a few simple questions. How do we get leads? How do we know that these leads are good leads? And how do I sell my products to them? 3 simple questions. We're going to break down this presentation into kind of 3 steps or 3 chapters here: generate, qualify, and sell. Before we get started, let's just define this term that I'm using here. It's kind of a buzzword in CRMs lately: Salesforce Automation. CRMs have been around a while now, but businesses have been around even far before that. So back in the day, we still counted our money, we invoiced our customers, we kept track of our books. Everything was good, but over time, we've created software that allows us to reduce our error and make ourselves more efficient. And that's what our CRM allows us to do today. So how do I define Salesforce Automation? It is a repeatable process that is the strategy of using software to streamline your sales, ultimately driving revenue and capturing your customer interactions in one single place. In typical CRMs and in Zoho, these are kind of some areas that Salesforce Automation includes: lead management, account management, tracking your sales pipeline, and monitoring your daily activity. So we're going to break it down in each one of these today and start with lead management there. What is a lead? A lead in Zoho, think of it as an unqualified prospect. Information is incomplete. It may be a business name and an address, or maybe someone's name and an email address. We don't know if there is a legitimate opportunity just yet, or if it even makes sense working with them. They're usually generated by marketing, and once we have qualified that lead, we're going to convert that into a contact. Okay, so let's talk about generating these different leads. And what does it take to build our business and generate leads? These are some typical examples or some ways in which we do that in today. So you may have a website out there, people go online, they get information about you. You also probably do outreach on social media, as well as send out email campaigns or even do something physical outside, like advertisements or events that you attend. Probably the best type of lead generation is referrals. And that's because they cost no money, and also because they're more likely to buy. That's because they have an inside look at your company and what you offer. In Zoho, these are some ways in which you can generate leads here and how it kind of translates. So you can manually enter them, of course. You do research in your own time on LinkedIn or what have you, and just add them in as you go. You can also create a web form in the CRM where you define which fields you want a person to fill out, kind of like a contact us form on your website. You can build one of those in Zoho. There's also a social tab where you can set up email triggers to generate new leads. Of course, you can also import them in bulk from spreadsheet and send out mass emails. And there is also a campaigns module that we're going to take a look at to track different marketing initiatives, like emails and physical events. So here's a lead generation screen, but let's actually go into the product here. Okay, so first, just super simple, basic, adding a new lead. There's a plus button in the top right here. You click on that, pulls up your form. You define these fields, what you need to enter in, anything custom that we don't give you out of the box. That's pretty straightforward, I know. Next to the plus button, there's an import. So if you want to import a list, maybe you buy it somewhere, maybe you get it from somewhere online, download it, just hit that import button there, and it's going to ask you to upload a file. So it's got to be a CSV or an Excel. I'm not going to go all the way through an import process and bore you to death. Just know that you would upload it here, and then you would map the different fields in your form to the fields in your spreadsheet. We also talked about generating through different email campaigns. So up here in the top, the campaigns module. This is a place where you can track different marketing initiatives. So you see I've got a few already loaded in here, even one from Zoho campaigns. So if we're talking about multiple Zoho apps, as you create and send out Zoho campaigns, they'll show up here so that you can track them. Your sales team is in the loop with what's going on. Anything that we'd want to add to this list, like we've got a trade show. Here's a Zoholics one that I built. I'm going to click into it. And at the top of the lead, or at the top of the campaigns, you got this ROI estimate. So you can see we plugged in a cost, and it's got a revenue and an amount in our pipeline there. Where does it get those numbers? So as you import and create these campaigns, associate leads to them and opportunities, Zoho is going to take note of those things and actually calculate that ROI at the top. So if I have a lead that I convert to a deal and close it, it's going to recognize that and add it to that tally there. The last way, just sending out mass emails. So if I go to my main leads list, if I want to do a mass email blast, you see all these checkboxes here. Click the one on the top to select them all, and then send that email out. So if I want to send a mass message, we'll click that first button there. We've got a template. You have to create these ahead of time. I'm just going to choose one, initial interest. And something that's in our Enterprise Edition that's pretty cool is you can actually schedule these for later if you want. And this is a relatively new feature. You can also schedule a follow-up action to happen off of the activity of the email. So maybe after I email blast this out, I want to remind myself later of anybody that actually opened it. I can do that. So we'll say on opened here. We've got options. It could update a field, maybe add one of those follow-up reminders, or maybe set up a call. So I'm going to say follow-up on email. Or one day after it's open, we need to complete that. Whoever's assigned to that lead is going to get this task here. All right, and send that out. So now that we've generated some leads, we now need to educate them about our products or services. This is lead nurturing. How you typically do that are going to be through these different ways here. You maybe have a landing page on your website where you direct people to. Maybe you post on different blogs out there or send out email drip campaigns. You could also have something physical, maybe a brochure or decision guide, or send out some free samples. Something we actually do internally at Zoho is have webinars that go on every single week where we educate people about the different products. In the CRM, how you do these things, you're going to be able to send follow-up emails. We already just kind of touched on that. We also have autoresponders. So that's a drip email campaign that you can set up in the CRM. You have a series of emails going out. There's also workflow alerts. So that would be when a trigger is met, we can execute an action to take place, like an email going to somebody. If you want to quantify how well your lead nurturing is going, you can create scoring rules. The last option, a direct mail campaign. So here is a placeholder for me, and let's show you some of these features here. All right, so the first one I want to touch on is going to be that autoresponder. We already did the regular single mass email out. So if you're in your main list view here, there's a More button in the top right. It's got the 3 dots. At the bottom, or near the bottom of this list, is autoresponders. If you're not seeing it there, it's because this is only on Enterprise Edition. Let's set up one really quick, though. So there's 2 types of autoresponders that you can create. Let me give this one a name. Autoresponder, not being too creative. We're going to send it to a list. I'd probably want to send these lead nurturing emails out to maybe my open leads, ones that aren't junk or lost already. So I'm going to choose that view right here. And then there's a type, either static or dynamic. Static is just as it sounds, just defining static dates and times to send out emails. A dynamic would mean it's on a recurring pattern. So maybe on the first Monday of every month, you want to send an email, for example. So let's say that every week on the Monday of that week, I'm going to send out an email. So I'm going to have my email template set up ahead of time. We'll say initial interest, and then we can add a follow-up after that. So we're going to send it on every Monday. There it is at the top. All right. So then 5 days after that one is sent out, we'll send the next one here. That is the dynamic. I've got a static one already set up here. So we've got the first email. If we wanted to edit it, I'll open it right up, and then add my next follow-up. So I'll just choose the date and time. Maybe next Monday after that, we'll send the next email in our chain. So your autoresponder is a way to send drip emails out in the CRM. I also mentioned the workflow rules. So let's go to our setup menu really quick and show you an example of that. It's one of the most really versatile automation features that we have. So if you go to setup, under automation, the top option, workflow rules. Let's come up with an example. Let's say that when the lead gets to maybe a certain status, we want to trigger an email to go to them or maybe to someone internally. So we'll create a rule for just doing that. We'll say it's going to be on our leads module. We'll give it a name for internal reference. To the workflow, there's a when, a which, and a what happens. The when is, when do we want to execute it? Is it on a scoring rule? Maybe a date or time field, like a renewal date, a birth date? Or is it on the action of the record? So here we have on create, edit, either of those, when a field is updated or it is deleted. So if we want this triggered off of us updating a field, we're going to choose on edit. And then next is the which. So which records do this apply to? Is it all leads, or is it only certain leads that have something edited about them? So here we're going to say our status is a certain value. So we'll say if we tried to call them and we said contact in future, let's do that, and then send us a reminder email and task. So under the instant actions, this is what would happen when these conditions are met. This is the what. So we would set up an email. And we'll say it is the lead owner. So we're going to add them. And then we'll choose an email template that we have. And save and associate. If we want to create a follow-up task for us as well to reach out to them at a later date and time, we could do that. We just go through this process of filling out this form. When is it going to be due? What is it that we're doing? And who is it going to be assigned to? All right, hopefully from that example, you get some of your own ideas that you can trigger these workflows off of. You can also delay them with a scheduled action. So maybe a couple of days later, you want the task generated. You would set that up in the scheduled action there. Okay, the last one I want to touch on, the direct mail campaigns, or maybe something physical email campaign that we're nurturing our leads on. So if I hit new campaign right here, we'll say this is going to be direct mail 2019. There's a type. You can edit the list, but we've got our preset options. Here's direct mail. We'll choose that. And here are some of those fields we saw earlier if you want to track a budget about the campaign. So maybe you go to a trade show, you're sending one of these out. You can import your leads if you want to from a list. You can scan them in using a business card scanner too. You can also just associate records that are already in place. So if I hit add leads, I'd be able to filter down by them here. So maybe you want to do like a direct email campaign to some sort of city or zip code. We can filter that right here. We'll say everybody in Portland. I'm going to apply a filter. Only 2 people, let's just roll with it. So I'm going to select with them and hit next, save it, and now they'd be attached. Now, if I wanted to actually send the direct mail out, so if I go to my Leads tab, I can filter by that same campaign that we just created. So I'll say direct mail 2019, there it is. Apply the filter. Here's those leads that we attached. Select them all. Under the More button, you're going to use a mail merge. Those are the physical PDFs or documents that you generate in Zoho. And then you would have a brochure, or whatever the case was. Generate those. It would give you a PDF of a page of each document, print it out, send it out. Okay, so we're nurturing our leads. Now we move to qualifying them. And we need to ask ourselves this: is this the right person that we should be talking to? Hopefully in your business, you have so many leads that you can prioritize which ones that you want to follow up with. It may not be the case. Maybe you only get a few a day. You need to focus a little bit more on those specific leads that you're getting. Either way, you need to determine the questions that you need to ask to make sure that it is a good fit. So this is kind of up to you and your sales team to define. Here at Zoho, we ask them, what are you trying to accomplish with the products? How many users are you looking to purchase? Do you need migration services? Going back to the car dealership analogy, what is your budget? When are you looking to buy? You need to determine the qualifying questions to gather the requirements and determine if it is a good fit. When you ask the questions, you need to then update the CRM, update that lead status I showed you, fill in some notes, and add any info to the custom fields that you add in. So here's just me entering in a note that you can see into place. I think we're all pretty comfortable with adding in notes in the CRM. Once we start asking them the questions, we've got some traction with them. When do I follow up? How many times do I follow up? How do we gauge that? How you track those things in Zoho is you can send emails out. You can also create different activities for reminding yourself to follow up. So these translate into tasks, events, and calls. What do they mean exactly? A task is an action item, like a to-do list. It's got a due date attached to it, and also a status that we're going to update as we complete them. You've also got events. This would be just like an Outlook or a Gmail calendar invite. Have a start and end date that you invite people to. And a nice thing that we have with another Zoho app is an integration with Zoho Meeting. The last type is a call. So you can log calls manually. Let's show you how to log some of these in Zoho. So let's go find my lead here. I've got one in place. Okay. So if I want to just hop to any of the sections, I can do that with this left side here. So if I want to go to Open Activities, I'll do that. Just click on it. It takes me there. And then you've got Task, Events, and Calls over on the right. So we'll add a new one here. Maybe it's follow up on the quote. We'll say we'll do it by the end of the week. So we'll set it for Friday. You can delegate them out to other people if need be. Just add them as the owner right here. If you want them to get a reminder before it is due, you can do that as well. Just save it. It's going to show up under Open first. This is what we have upcoming or to do for them. So once I've done that, I'll probably make a note of it above. Completed, follow up, whatever it was. Save it. Just to the left of this task, if I can zoom in a little bit, there's a little green checkbox I'm going to click on to actually show I did that. Yes, I completed it. It then moves it down here to close activities. So that's all of our history we've done. The events, again, this is like a meeting invite. Maybe it's an on-site customer visit, on-site meeting. The integration that we have with Zoho Meeting, you can check a box here. It's going to send them a conference line and also a screen share link where they can just log in. So if online meetings are your things, check out Zoho Meeting. Then just add in the other typical info, meeting place and time, and then add the people as participants down below. So we'll save it and send the invitations. Okay. The last activity, just a call. We're just going to show you manually logging them if you wanted to do that. So we'll say this is an outbound call. And we'll just say start. We're on this call right now. So we say we're calling him. Okay, Ashley picks up. He answered. We can start typing in notes down here. On the call, what's being discussed. When it ends, just hit the end button. You can type in any final notes and also schedule a follow-up. We'll just save that, and it shows up under closed. Okay. So we're tracking our activity, what's going on with them, and now we get to move into the fun part, the selling process. So is there a sales opportunity? How do you determine this? Usually, the buyer is going to give us some sort of signal. Just like we are going through the sales process with them, they're going through a buying process. They may say something, ask a certain question that triggers you to think, hey, they're serious about actually moving forward with us. At Zoho internally, usually when someone asks about migration services or what's the onboarding process, we know, hey, they're serious. Maybe in your business, when they ask for a proposal or a quote, maybe that's a trigger. Hey, when that happens, you need to convert the lead. When you convert the lead, you're going to be creating a few different records. You've got an account, that's the business, the contact is the individual there, and the deal is just the opportunity. So if we have an example here, I don't know if anybody watches Eastbound and Down, but I'm a fan. This is Ashley Schaefer, better known as Will Ferrell, and he sells cars. So we're going to convert Ashley Schaefer into an account and contact and create a deal to represent the opportunity with them. There that diagram is one more time. And this is a picture of the conversion screen, but I want to actually show you it in action. So here's Ashley. We're going through the process. Before I convert him, I'll just point out that you can convert in bulk. It's a pretty nice thing. So if you've called a lot of people, you need to do it en masse. Choose the check boxes, hit the more button, and hit mass convert. If it's just a case-by-case basis, you can go into the lead. There's a nice green button at the top right here. We're going to click on that. So this is just what's about to happen. A new account from the company name field is going to get created. A new contact from that lead's name. There's an optional checkbox here. We can go ahead and create a deal to represent that opportunity. We're going to just plug in some basic info. Maybe it's 20,000. We'll say it's set to close by the end of the month. There's going to be a stage in our process. You can customize these stages, as we established earlier, so do go in and do that. I'm going to just say qualification in mind and convert this over. Okay. Go back to the presentation, and a few more things to touch on. So now that we've converted them, we have these other records. What can we do with them? In the account, you can have multiple contacts associated to it. There's probably multiple people that work at that business. Maybe in your business, you deal with large businesses or companies, and they have other divisions, separate locations, parent companies, child companies. You can actually create a relationship between your accounts in Zoho. On the contact side, you can actually show who they report to in the company, who is their secretary, who is their boss. And even in the deal, you can also show the roles. What is their responsibility in this process? Are they purchasing? So here's a screen of the account. But let's actually take a look at the one that we just converted here. So I'm just going to click on the account name. It'll take me right into it. And I've got the breakdown of maybe one or multiple people at the top or opportunities with them. If I want to add a new contact, straightforward, go to that section, contacts, and hit the new button over on that right side. We'll say this is James. Okay, so filling in some basic info. You'll see right here, there is the reporting to field. So maybe this is Ashley's secretary. We want to show that in Zoho. At the time of adding them, just select them, that they're reporting to them. We'll see how this looks in just a moment. I'm going to save it. Now we've got both people in the account. And if I actually go to the contact section and hit the hierarchy view, zoom in on that, we can see the breakdown. Who reports to who under Ashley Schaefer Kia. I talked about relating other accounts to each other. So where that comes into play is this section right here, member accounts. So maybe there's another Ashley Schaefer location out there in another city. I'm going to hit new and create that separate location. So we'll say this is Ashley Schaefer Chevy. This is going to have its own info about it, so its own industry, its own address, all of those fields of information. You'll notice it's got the parent account reference right here as we're creating it. So I'll save it. And now it's going to have it outlined at the top. And if I go into this account record we just created, you will see it's blank. So this is going to have its own contacts here, its own opportunities, everything about it. It's bare. But you'll notice in the parent account field, it is reference. Okay. Now in the deal itself, so if I go to that here and click into it, this deal has roles. So this is where we can tell ourselves who is doing what exactly. So if I wanted to add that other person there, I'll hit the add button and then check their box. And here is the role that we can say. So maybe they are a purchasing person. Save it. And now in the deal, we'll see at the very top each of their roles. Purchasing. Okay. So that's a little on the account and contact management side. Let's go back over here and touch a little bit more about the pipeline, tracking that, and what we can do with it. So what is the sales opportunity exactly? That is the deal, or if you're an older Zoho customer a couple years back, it used to be called potentials. So you may see that if your account is older. We're going to be tracking a few key things out of the box. How much money can I make on this deal? When am I expecting to close it? And where is it in the pipeline? All of these translate to these fields: the amount, closing date, and stage. It may not be important to you to actually track the amount of the deal, so don't think of these fields as completely required. The stage is, in fact, the only one that is hard required in the deals area. So you can ignore amount and closing date if you do not need it. So again, you saw me doing that as I converted the lead. I was entering a few of those key fields. Also, any other field that you have set as required in the deals module, it would show up on that conversion screen and tell them that it's required as well. Now, where is it in the pipeline exactly? That is the sales stages, as we just said. There's something interesting about the stages in Zoho, and that is there's a probability assigned to them. That probability is the likelihood of us that we typically see to close the deal at this step in the process. As you advance the deal through the pipeline, that percentage is going to increase, obviously. So you can see the nice funnel here as it's counting up as we go through it. In Zoho, if you go to the modules and fields area, actually, you'll be able to set up each of these stages. So just to quickly show you where you go to do that, go to your setup menu. Under customization, click on modules and fields. And if you just hover over deals, you'll see the option stage probability mapping. And you can add or take away from it. And here's that probability that you're going to assign. So what that probability actually plays a part in is the expected revenue. So we have expected revenue or a weighted average in place for forecasting. Think of it this way. You've got 10 deals in your pipeline, one's at the final stage, and 9 of them at the beginning stage. The 9 at the beginning are worth $1 million each, and the final one is also worth $1 million. It's better to say that the ones at the beginning are probably not going to all close, so we multiply that by the percentage to give us the expected revenue. And the one at the very end of the pipeline is going to be more likely. That's why we multiply it by the percentage. You're also going to be able to track the history of your stages getting changed and determine your sales cycle duration. Once you have won the deal, you're going to go ahead and update that stage to being closed won. And you will get a complete breakdown of the days it was in each of those. And something that's relatively new is competitors in the deal. So you can actually track who you are going up against and the strengths and weaknesses over them. So if you're talking to your prospect on the phone and they happen to name drop, you can go ahead and take note of that so you know going forward. Let's go over to our demo account into the deal that we created earlier. And here is the stages at the very top. So if I wanted to just update it, I can do it right here. There's also a nice drag and drop interface in the Deals tab. So if you haven't seen this already, there's a Kanban board where you can visualize your pipeline and what you have at stake. And this is also drag and drop right here. Okay, I'm going to go back into the deal. And let's say that we actually have a couple of competitors that we're working on this here. So if I go to my competitors section, I'll hit new. We'll say this is other guy services. Plug in a website and then strengths and weaknesses. So we can say they are less costly. Weaknesses, can't provide all of these services. So it would just show up right here, a running list of our competitors. Let's say that we close this opportunity with Mr. Schaefer. We're going to just update that to close one right here and plug in that closing date. Okay, so saving it. And again, you've got a history. So if I go to my history of the deal, the stages, this tells us who changed it, when did that happen, and how many days was it in that stage before getting switched to the next. We go back to the slideshow, and there's a couple other things I want to cover. So this is kind of moving into the admin side and setting up your different teams and goals. So we've got to feature territory management in the Enterprise Edition. And this will allow you to actually segment your different teams into the territories that they are working. And it's going to allow you to share data amongst that team so they only see what's relevant to them. They don't need to see everything, maybe, if they only want to see their own territories. And you can also track the performance and set different goals for each one of those. And to set the goals, you would create forecasts. So these forecasts can be based on the territories, but they can also be based on the role in which the person is assigned to. And in the forecast area, we can be aware of shortages in our pipeline and who is actually performing the best. So let's show you the territories area. If I go to Setup, under Users and Control, here's Territory Management. And you can see it's a hierarchy here. So I've got the company name at the top, and then it's got broken down below. We've got a USA division with a couple of territories. Now we're starting to expand to Canada. So if we wanted to add a new one here to Canada for maybe some of the provinces, we'll hit plus and then fill this out. So maybe we're expanding to the West Coast and British Columbia. We say we have a new manager there, Dustin, and we need to define the territory. So this is the rules. It doesn't have to be limited to geographic location. Don't think of it as that. Your territories can be based on any of the accounts field that you've got in place. It could be maybe the size of the company, the industry that they're operating in. You'll be able to choose right here. I'm going to say, though, in my example, I'm going to base it off the state and just say if the state is BC. And I'm going to add one more row just in case the state was entered in the full name. So we'll say it could be BC or it could be British Columbia. Okay, and save it. And now it's added to the hierarchy here. So once we start building this hierarchy and setting it up, we can then create different forecasts. So up at the top, you've got a forecasting module. And you can base these forecasts either off the territory again or the role. And it could be quarterly targets or it could be a month-to-month target. You'll choose also when the fiscal year starts as well and what we are basing the forecast off. In mine, it's just the amount field. You could also do it off of expected revenue or another number field if you want it in the deals module. There it goes. Okay, so for the whole company, we're going to set that first. Just going to say 700K. For the USA division, we'll go 600. And the manager that's responsible of overseeing it, he's got his own as well. It'll be 150. You're going to have to do some math on your end. So we'll say 100 for Canada, and the manager is also 100. Okay, so now it's starting to show us, based off those territories, how much have we achieved, how much is in our pipeline, and then what is our shortage in the pipeline there. If we want to drill down into one of these, so the sub-territories that we have beneath it, we'll say for USA, we've got our East, West, and Central we need to set targets for as well. We'll just edit those. So we'll say each one of these people also have to meet a 150 target. So once we've set those targets, we'll compute them all, so it'll look at the deals and calculate where we're at. And so when I said earlier that we can see the shortage or not and who's performing the best, so this is our star performer right here. And then if we had any shortages, we'd be able to see that over on the right side. Okay, so hopefully from that, you can think of your own teams and what you want to set up as far as territories go. Just to quickly wrap up what we've talked about today, leads are unqualified prospects. Those are converted into accounts and contacts. Contacts are the individuals, accounts are the businesses. Deals are your opportunities, and the stages is your sales cycle. Closed deal is a one sale.